Richard, I couldn't have anybody better to join me here to tell me about Metamec. The few things I know about them, as Peter said, hobbies were big, but Metamec were the biggest.
They employed about 600-700 people.
That's an enormous amount for a small market town, isn't it?
That is, isn't it? Very small.
So
Yeah.
were you in pretty well at the start?
No, I wasn't. No, I started about 1969. That was December '69, and Archie Pitch was in control then of the whole factory. He was director, and I then went to a department for repairing the clocks, clock movements. That is.
So how did the Metamec come about? Was it a branch of another firm?
No, it wasn't. No, it came out 1947, started in 1947, and that's when it started making, I believe, ammunition cases from the wood from Gentique.
Mm-hmm.
And then from then on
They were offcuts, were they? Offcut
Yes,
pieces?
as far as I can understand, yes, that's right. And then of course the wooden part from Gentique came into wooden cases for Metamec, and they used to buy in the movements. I believe the Smith's movements originally started.
So who were the directors of the firm when you first knew it?
There was William Cooper, I believe. I can't remember the other names.
And were the Gentique people involved as well?
Yes, there were. Yeah.
Mm. So here you had a factory producing furniture, and they were also producing the cases for the clocks.
That's right, Gentique.
Mm.
Yeah.
And so they'd come over. So, I mean, that was an enormous number of people to employ in a market town of Dereham. Did they all come locally?
Well, they made everything virtually concerned with the clock, like the bezels, the dials, and the wooden cases and any fittings.
Mm.
And of course they went through the whole process to make a complete clock.
I mean, we're talking about vast numbers with that number of people employed. I read somewhere they produced somewhere around 25,000 clocks a week.
That's right, but that was sort of like getting on into the late 60s, 70s. That's when that happened, because there were so many different models. There were not only battery movements, there was 30-hour movements, 8-day movements, and then of course the mains electric movements, which they thoroughly made from the start.
But that meant really this firm, who produced a very traditional mantle clock,
Yeah.
were quite at the forefront, really, weren't they? They were at the head of things with technology.
They were, then in those years they were, yes. But unfortunately it didn't last.
So why do you think it didn't last?
Overseas competition. Too much competition.
Do you think they didn't move fast enough?
Well, they tried to in the late or late 70s when they bought the quartz machine, which would produce one movement every 4 seconds.
Crumbs. And what was your job, Richard, at the factory?
Well, right from the start, I was sort of like a quality technician, doing repairs to all types of clocks they produced. Battery, mechanical, everything. Yeah, even the 8-day wall clocks, which were Westminster chime movements, which they bought from Germany. And the long case movements, which are weight driven, they also bought from Germany.
Were they like a, excuse me, were they like a long case clock, a grandmother clock?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, there's granddaughter, grandmother and grandfather, but they're termed as long case clocks in horology.
Yeah. So give us a flavour of what life was like on a day-to-day basis going into work at Metamec.
Okay, well, I used to cycle to work, and as soon as you got in, you had to clock in.
Very appropriate, yeah.
Yes, very appropriate.
I thought you were going to say that's what made Dereham tick.
Well, you used to clock in at 8 a.m. Sometimes you were allowed 3 minutes past 8 a.m. to qualify for the first payment of quarter of an hour.
So otherwise you lost a quarter of an hour?
Otherwise you lost quarter of an hour, yes, that's right. Then it went on till 12:30, an hour for lunch. Started again at 1:30.
Did you have your own canteen there?
Yes, they did. That was at Gentique's. You could go and have a lunch, but then that eventually finished. They didn't have enough turnover, I guess. Then we had a smaller canteen for Metamec. There used to be a couple of women there look after it, and come round with a trolley for mid-morning breaks and afternoon tea. So that was, and we worked till 5, or you could do overtime till 6 if the work was available.
Were the workforce in general happy what they're doing there?
Yeah, I've met several people now since I've been retired, or not really, but I'm still working. The people who I've spoken to said that was one of the best years, some of the best years working for Metamec. And even though they had probably had several bits of trouble regarding night workers.
And I think you had were you laid off a couple of times?
3 times I was laid off. Yeah, 1984 when FKI took them over, and then I believe management buyout occurred in 1989. I was called back then, and then when they packed up, I was made redundant again. Then it was Ross Consumer Products, which took them over for about 2 or 3 years.
And I suppose very difficult if they didn't have a technical know-how with clock movements or something. They didn't have the edge on the competitors, did they?
No, unfortunately, the quartz movement they produced did not come up to the quality of German and Japanese movements. They were much more defined.
And your job, certainly initially, was to put things right.
That's right, yes, absolutely.
And did you give them feedback, so if you had a fault that was reoccurring, something had to be put right at source?
Yes, we used to fill in a weekly sheet as to how many we did in a day, movement repairs, and what the faults were.
Because if you were producing at peak 25,000 clocks a week, you know, there must be millions of Metamec clocks all over the country.
Definitely, yes, that's right, there is.
And
yes.
I think if people came to the museum here and had a look at the display case, which has got examples of it in, they're going to say, oh, my mum had one like that.
That's right, they do, yes, right, yeah. And of course there are the more popular ones, like somewhere over there.
Like a sunburst?
Yeah, sunburst, yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah.
So which ones gave you the most trouble?
I think basically it was the quartz movement, what they produced. They used to get a lot of faults from, unfortunately.
But was
I think that was partly half of their trouble, because they spent about, so I've heard, about £500,000 to £1 million on this Lanco machine, which they bought from Switzerland, and there are stations on it, and each station did a stage of the movement. They were experiencing an awful lot of faults, unfortunately.
So what was your favourite clock?
Working on the 8-day clocks, the long case clocks, and the wall clocks. Occasionally, battery mechanical ones weren't too bad to repair either.
Good.
Used to have plenty of components from the firm who produced the movements. All the components were supplied by that firm to Metamec. So we used to, if there's a faulty coil, replace it with a new one.
So were you a Dereham person to take a job there?
No, I was not. I come from Palgrave near Diss.
So you're not far away.
Not far away, no.
I wonder whether I dare ask you, have you got one of their clocks in the house now?
Yes, I have, most certainly.
You're very loyal then.
Well, I'm trying to be loyal to the people of Dereham and surrounding villages who have got Metamec clocks which do wrong. I always try and help them out because they treasure their clock. You know, it's got great sentimental value to people who've got them.
And you must walk into a house and know exactly what model that is.
Definitely.
Are you tempted to say, oh, I remember that?
Sometimes I do, but more often than not I keep quiet.
But very fond memories.
Yeah, very fond memories of the factory and when I see lovely clocks. You know, that reminds me as well of how we used to produce them and repair them. Went through many hours of repairing movements. You know, in a day you probably got through about 25-30 movements to been repaired. And they used to go on test overnight. If they're okay in the morning, they'd get sent back to the customer.
Main assembly
That
point.
was the main assembly, sort of roughly
So
about
was
late-
this a purpose-built building, or was the building already there?
No, it was already there.
Yeah.
Yes, because they got huge, great expanse. I don't know if I brought the aerial photograph. I may have done, but there were so many different departments. They moved us around so many times. That was the new quartz machine, the Lanco machine.
That's a big machine, isn't it?
That was huge. That was absolutely massive. Now they did build a special building for that. Well, that's when Lord Snowden came.
That's
to
in the
visit
book.
the
That's
factory.
in the book. That one, I think.
That's in the book. That's
Yeah.
right. Yes. Now there's the
Aerial view. It's
aerial
big, isn't it?
photograph.
So where is this now? What's here now?
It doesn't exist now. All
Right.
houses and bungalows.
Is it really?
The whole site is gone.
Was that Morgate House? That one.
That's Morgate House. Yes.
The sound of a Metamec clock. Thank you. Lovely.
That one, mine's electric, and the sails will go round.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah.
Oh, will they?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness me.
Yeah.
It's the first one, isn't
That's
it?
the first one they produced. And there's probably a batch number on the bottom of it.
Yeah, very good.
Is there somewhere?
Yeah.
You got it?
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
Can't see it.
Can't see it. All right.
So that was
Must
made
have escaped.
1940, 47 was it? They started this one? This one?
Just a bit later than that, I would think. Probably
Right.
about 49, 50,
Right.
1950.
It's just
yeah.
30 hours.
Yes, 30 hours.
And this
yeah.
is the first clock they made.
That's right. Yes, it is.
Right.
Yes, yes.
You know how we say Norfolk is a village? What a very strange thing, because Mr. Bowman Jenkins, who helped start Gentique with Mr. Smart, I believe, didn't he?
Oh yes.
He had a son called Max, and Bowman Jenkins used to make model trains here in Dereham, tin trains, in competition with Hornby and Bassett Loke and other people. They made them here. His son Max moved over to near me at Ridlington, near Stalham, where I am, and he made model boats called Bowman model boats, model yachts, wooden ones with metal keels. And in the 1970s, I became a partner in that firm with Max Bowman Jenkins, and I also had a wholesale business as well. We merged the two businesses, and that was carried on there until the late 1970s at Ridlington. So Bowman Jenkins and Wood still, Jenkins still carried on making wooden things later on as well. We also made kites for Esso, Batman kites and all sorts of things there as well out at Ridlington. And that was, he's passed away now. Max Bowman Jenkins was the last one from that firm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the Royal Warrant.
That's lovely. Yeah.
The Queen Mothers.
Is that a plastic one or is that a metal one?
That's a fiberglass one.
Fiberglass one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anybody know where it is?
Sorry?
Does anybody know where it is?
Yeah, I know where it is.
I've got it.
He's
I've
got.
got that one, which was presented by the Queen Mother, and also one by the Queen.
Brilliant.
Well,
oh, I looked
Richard's
after.
got it over his gate now because he repairs clocks. You see, he's by royal appointment. Well, thank you very much indeed, Richard, for taking the trouble of coming to see us and tell us all about Metamec.
Oh, thank you too.
Thank you.